Every now and then, a new brand arrives in a country and generates an unusual amount of excitement. A perfect example of this happened in Sydney back in 2003 when the American donut company Krispy Kreme opened its very first Australian store. For days, hundreds of people formed long queues, with many waiting for hours just to buy a dozen donuts. With that kind of debut, Krispy Kreme in Australia looked like it was set for a long and successful future. But then, the unthinkable happened. The sugar rush faded and the empire began to crumble. By 2010, just 7 short years after its triumphant arrival, Krispy Kreme Australia was on its knees. The company plunged into administration. The brand that once inspired feverish devotion was suddenly fighting for its very survival. It was a spectacular flameout. And yet, if you look around today, Krispy Kreme is not only still here, but is currently enjoying a period of strong, stable success. It's one of the most remarkable and quietest comebacks in Australian corporate history. So, what on earth happened? How did a brand fall so hard so fast, and what secret formula did they use to rise from the ashes? To really get this story, you have to rewind back to its origins. Krispy Kreme was born in the 1930s, a southern gem built on a secret yeast-raised donut recipe. For decades, it was a beloved regional institution. And by the late 90s, the company went supernova, expanding across the US and then setting its sights on the globe. The world was hungry for its signature original glazed donut, that ethereal ring of warm, sugary air that dissolves on your tongue. When it came time to pick new frontiers, Australia seemed like a no-brainer, a guaranteed home run. And for a while, it was. The 2003 launch in Penrith was a phenomenon. People drove from hours away to witness the Donut Theatre, the mesmerizing spectacle of the treats moving along conveyor belts, passing under a shimmering waterfall of glaze. The whole process was an experience, and Aussies couldn't get enough. The media frenzy and genuine public obsession fueled a lightning-fast expansion. More stores popped up across Sydney, then Melbourne, Brisbane, and beyond. But beneath the sugary glaze, deep structural cracks were already forming. The core of the problem was the strategy itself. Krispy Kreme exported its entire American business model alongside its donuts, assuming it would work perfectly down under. This model was built around massive high-volume locations that were more like full-scale production facilities rather than simple donut shops. These factory stores had huge footprints, with long and expensive leases and eye-watering overhead costs. In the sprawling suburbs of America, with its strong car culture and vast retail parks, this made sense. But in the more densely packed and expensive urban landscape of Australia, it was a financial ticking time bomb. Each new factory store added immense pressure on the company's bottom line, demanding a colossal sales volume just to break even. Compounding this flawed footprint was a fundamental misreading of the Australian consumer. By the late 2000s, the nation's palate was evolving. The flat white economy was booming. Australians were developing a sophisticated coffee culture and a growing appreciation for artisanal, locally sourced food. Boutique bakeries, organic cafes, and a general trend towards healthier options were on the rise. In this new landscape, a hyper-sweet, mass-produced American donut felt increasingly out of step. Krispy Kreme, stuck in its rigid US-centric plan, failed to pivot. The product itself was still beloved, but its place in the market was becoming uncertain. The breaking point arrived in 2010. Weighed down by massive debts and declining sales, the Australian arm of Krispy Kreme went into voluntary administration. It was a stunning fall from grace. Stores were shuttered, hundreds of jobs were lost, and the brand became a cautionary tale of foreign expansion gone wrong. For most companies, this would have been the end of the story. They would have packed up their glazing machines and retreated, leaving Australia as a failed experiment. But this is where the story takes its most fascinating turn. Instead of disappearing completely, a plan was put in place to pull the company back from the brink. The leadership team successfully argued that the brand itself wasn't the problem. There was still a deep, lingering affection for the product among Australians. They believed the real issue was the flawed and expensive business model, and they were determined to prove it could be fixed. With a formal restructuring plan approved, Krispy Kreme Australia began its radical transformation. The first priority was to stop the financial bleeding. The company immediately abandoned the bigger is better philosophy, ending the era of the giant, costly factory store. They downsized, streamlined, and focused on creating a leaner, more agile operation. This meant smaller retail footprints, more efficient production hubs, and a complete rethink of how they reach their customers. But the most profound change was deeply cultural. Instead of a top-down, one-size-fits-all approach, they empowered their local store and team managers. They gave them the autonomy to adapt to their specific communities. This meant managers could trial different promotions, adjust product offerings, and respond directly to the unique tastes and traffic patterns of their neighborhood. The company evolved from seeing its stores as identical cogs in a machine to valuing them as community-centric businesses. This people-first philosophy extended to their own employees. The new leadership invested heavily in training, fostering collaboration, and building a positive workplace culture. They understood that a product meant to inspire joy couldn't be sold by a workforce that was stressed and disengaged. By creating a better environment for their staff, they saw performance soar and turnover plummet. This internal cultural revival was the secret engine of their external comeback. With a healthier foundation in place, they turned their attention to marketing. They replaced the old strategy of build it and they will come with a far more dynamic and playful approach. They leaned into the power of scarcity and excitement by introducing a constant stream of limited edition flavors and collaborations. Themed releases for holidays and partnerships with brands like Oreo or Lotus Biscoff became major events. But perhaps their most brilliant strategic move was cracking the code of distribution. They realized that instead of making every customer come to Krispy Kreme, they could take Krispy Kreme to the customer. They forged powerful partnerships with retail giants like 7-Eleven and Woolworths, transforming Krispy Kreme from being a destination purchase to an easy impulse buy. This dramatically expanded their reach into the daily routines of millions of Australians without the astronomical cost of building new stores. By 2024, the turnaround was undeniable. Krispy Kreme was making headlines again, this time for all the right reasons. Limited edition boxes were selling out in hours and dedicated fans were lining up for special releases. The brand had successfully transformed itself from a struggling relic into a savvy, modern, and highly profitable enterprise. Its current Australian operation is smarter, more resilient, and far more in tune with the local market than it ever was during its initial boom. And this success story has not gone unnoticed. The Australian turnaround is now held up as a textbook example of how to fail, learn, and come back stronger. The saga of Krispy Kreme in Australia offers a powerful lesson in business humility and intelligence. It proves that a strong brand name isn't enough to guarantee success. What works in one country can be a disaster in another if you don't respect the nuances of local culture and market realities. Krispy Kreme's first attempt followed a rigid blueprint, whereas its second successful act was built on a flexible conversation with the Australian public. Today, the brand has embraced its identity as an indulgent, special treat while building a sustainable and clever business model around it. It's a comeback that was achieved with smart decisions and a willingness to adapt. But what do you think? Do you remember the original Krispy Kreme Mania? And do you think the brand is actually stronger and smarter today than it was back then? Drop your thoughts, memories, and your all-time favorite limited edition flavor in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay curious.